Watch as this Muslim completely destroys Christianity in just a few seconds.
God is all powerful, right?
Right.
Which means God can take a physical body if God wants to, right?
Yeah, not quite. You see, there's a difference between what God does and what God is. You see, what God is doesn't change. If God is all-powerful and all-knowing, that means he's always the most powerful and always knows everything. To say the all-powerful became finite or that the eternal stopped existing is a contradiction.
You see, Christians believe that God ceased to exist when he became a man. See, Christians believe Jesus was created, and so he ceased to be eternal because he was never existing until he was... No, Christians don't believe God was created, and they don't believe Jesus was created. They believe Jesus became a man, which means he ceased to be eternal. No, he's still eternal because he still exists. There was like a split second there where Jesus ceased to exist when he transferred his soul or spirit into a body. No, he was always spirit. God is spirit. He's always existed. No. Okay, let me get back to you.
Now, just to be clear, we agree with you God can do anything, but a contradiction isn't a thing. For example, a square circle isn't a thing.
Yeah, exactly. A square circle cannot be a thing. And you want to know why a square circle cannot be a thing? Because God can't make a square circle. God is limited. No, wait, whoa. So God designed a world that has limitations, which means he limited himself by designing a world that has limitations, because he designed a world that by default cannot contradict itself, and so he could not make a square circle, which means God cannot design something or do something. Wait, what?
If you look at the greatness of God, and if you look at the might and glory of God, to me, and again, this is my own opinion, I don't see that this is befitting the creator of the universe.
Well, at least this guy's a little bit honest. He did say it is his opinion, because after all, who are you to dictate to God what he can and cannot do?
Pees on himself as a child. You can't have a square circle.
Right. You can't have a square circle, right? Like, that's impossible. God can't make a square circle. But then I put limits on God, and God has no limits. So I really need some help here. So I'm going to go ahead and share a video of a young man. His handle is the Christ Codex. Check him out on TikTok, YouTube. You need to follow and subscribe. But here's his answer. Brilliant argument. Take it away.
So in Tawḥīd, oneness, can Allah limit himself? And he doesn't attribute things to himself.
No.
Right. So my question would be this. I believe that existence itself is a contradiction to Tawḥīd. Because Muslims will say, how can Jesus be God and human? You can't have a square and a circle. You can't have a square circle, right? They'll use that as an argument. Yeah, they'll say you can't have a square circle. Those are things that are mutually exclusive here. You can't use that. So I'm going to reverse that argument back onto them and say this. Okay, God actively created a creation in which he created a square and he created a circle. Can God create a square circle? God, can he do it?
Can God do what?
Create a square circle in this world.
Yeah, I said he can.
Yeah, but again, can the number 1 equal 2?
I mean, no, because it's already a law that 1 doesn't equal 2.
Right, that's my point. So with the square circle argument, I'm saying that a square is a square and a circle is a circle. You cannot have a square circle, just like how 1 can equal 2. So can God create a square circle?
You're putting me in the spot here.
All right, I'll just frame it this way. Can God make 1 equal 2? You already answered the question. Things. 1 cannot equal 2, 2 cannot equal 1. They can never equal each other. They are different.
Yeah. Right.
Know that a square circle can exist. There's either a square or there's a circle. Again, in a higher dimensional state, it could exist, but not here. So my point by saying this is this. Existence itself is the answer to the omnipotence paradox, because God actively created a creation in which he cannot do something, similar to God creating a stone he can't lift. That means that God can limit himself, which means the concepts of Tawḥīd are disproven. Saying God cannot limit himself is now invalid, because just from this existence alone, we know God can create a creation in which he cannot do something, which means he can create something that he cannot do.
You're saying there are things that God himself can do.
That he can't do.
Yeah.
Right, and that's evident in our creation. So I'm saying that if Tawḥīd, one of the concepts of Tawḥīd, is not being able to limit his own self, just like not being able to create a stone he can't lift, then by nature, existence itself is contradictory to Tawḥīd, not even just God's nature. Because they'll attack God's nature and say 3 persons, 1 God doesn't make sense. But Tawḥīd contradicts existence itself, which is even worse, because that's the creation that we exist in, not God existing in a higher dimensional state.
Yeah, got it, man.
You see what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, I gotta do more research though.
You can't have a square circle.